Any other questions?
How did you chop the peppers and celery?
Bite-sized pieces. Try and keep it where it's, something you could easily eat with a fork, or a lot of people eat their shrimp Creole with, a spoon, and then you could just pick the shrimp up by the tail. So. Not all of them. A lot of my grandmother's recipes are in the book. It's going to be 125 recipes in the book. Should be out in April at some point from the printers. And if you'd like to pre-order today, certainly do that, and shipping will be free too. So. Any other questions? Way back in the back. Sweating the onions. Okay, when you can saute, you can sweat, a bunch of different things. Sweating onions, you want to bring them up nice and warm on medium-high heat, and they'll start to actually glisten, and they'll start to get a little bit tender. You don't want to, you're not looking for brownness to them at all. That would be a saute or caramelizing. New York? No. Go ahead. I've done it a couple times. Really, the best thing is practice. There's a simple technique of how to hold a knife and everything. And when you're cutting, you want to rock the knife a little bit. When you're chopping things up, I don't know if you have ever watched the close-ups on the Food Network of the Iron Chefs or something, where they're moving at breakneck speed, and they're doing with 2 knives and everything. Don't do that. You can cut your hand off. Because I've tried, and I've nicked myself quite a few times. Don't be afraid to get nicked either. And definitely a sharp knife, not a dull knife. Do not be afraid of a sharp knife. I would much rather be cut deeply with a sharp knife than a dull knife any day, because the dull knife is going to tear your skin. It's going to saw into you, and you'll have less chance of a scar with a sharp knife. I believe she was next. Depends on the flavor you want. If you're going to go for a saute or caramelized onion, you're going to want to go more towards the saute, so it gets that nice dark brown color. Sweating, it's going to hold more of the sharpness to it. And it depends on if you use a sweet onion, Spanish onion, red onion, other different things. Would that answer your question somewhat? Go ahead.
Speaking of knives, do you have any recommendations?
Personally, my personal preference is Worcester. But now there are lots of them out there. There's Global, KitchenAid makes a really nice one. I grabbed this one from my girlfriend's. It's a Rachel Ray knife. Just basically say, any knife that's sharp and good quality, nice heavy feel to it for its size, definitely worth the investment. And you don't need 40 knives. 1 or 2 good knives, go-to knives, a nice chef's knife. Perfectly fine. I believe I had a question back there. Yes, go.
Back to the onions. When do you decide whether you want to saute or sweat onions?
Depends on the flavor I'm looking for and the texture. As far as a saute, it's a quick dish. Now granted, this one, I only sweated them for a few seconds just for the demonstration purpose. But this dish, you could sit there and let it simmer without the shrimp in it for a long time on a lower heat. There's a richness that develops when you saute and caramelize onions that's not there when you do a quick sweat of the onion. With the sweat, you're basically just softening up the outside of it a little bit, and it's still going to have some rawness or a little, I guess, al dente to the onion.
So if you saute it, you make the whole dish thicker?
It gives more of a richness. Now, if you caramelize something where you cook it down to where it's, I'm sure you've had caramelized onions before on something, it's almost mush. And that sounds awful, but that's the best way I can describe it. The intensity of the flavor, it brings out a lot more of the sweetness to it, whereas something like sweating is going to bring out the sharpness or leave the sharpness in it. Any other questions? Go ahead. I personally like All-Clad, but now, again, any of the higher, in heavyweight pans and pots are perfectly good. Calphalon makes some great stuff. They've actually come out now with a non-stick sear pan, which I think is fantastic for somebody that, you go and cook in a sear, a cast iron pan or something, you got sticking and all this stuff and trying to sear it. They've made a great product with that. But I'll also have back here, for the later demonstration, a $10 aluminum pan from the grocery store. So you can cook with anything, but control the temperature. Don't jack everything to high. Only thing cooked on high should be boiling water. That's it. Any other questions? This one? Frank's Red Hot. Yeah, you've heard the commercial, haven't you? Any others? All right, just about ready. Plate this up. And actually what I just made and what the recipe shows you there, you should have enough left over to take to work the next day, depending on if you have teenage boys or not. Excuse me 1 second, let me grab this rice pot. And this is something that I would highly recommend for anybody that, I think someone said they were the novice cook. Rice is tricky for a lot of people. It's real simple what you have to do when you're cooking on the stove top, and most rice cookers as well. It's 2 to 1. 1 cup of rice, 2 cups of liquid. You can add chicken stock and various things like that, but put it in this, follow the directions, push the button, walk away. It bings, it tells you when it's done. You don't have to keep lifting the lid up. It's a $25 investment, easy. And there is a fine line sometimes between cheap and easy. Sometimes what's cheap isn't necessarily easy, it's a little bit more work, and vice versa. But balance out the two, figure out which one works best for you, and have fun with it. Go in the kitchen with your family, your friends, cook, laugh. Food should not be work, it should be enjoyable. Now, who's ready for a taste?